Alrighty, let's do this. Let's talk about the supposed Bill Cosby speaking tour. And when I say supposed, when you hear about news like this, even if it's somebody who's a representative of the person, until it occurs, this could be pure speculation, this could be a media distraction, this could be a lot of different things other than the truth or reality. I don't know one way or the other, and so I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but we're going to dive right into the whole Bill Cosby conversation about not just the trial, but the supposed tour that's occurring now after the trial. Now, as we're having this conversation, please feel free to ask questions. I'm going to be watching as best I can the screen. Sometimes it's difficult to do that on a phone, but I'm going to be doing my best to doing that. So please feel free to ask questions, share comments you have about this potential speaking tour or educational tour that could be taking place. And we'll dive into this and really talk about, one, how the jury might have gotten to where it did. We're going to discuss that. Two, the potential speaking tour here. So that we've got multiple aspects of this that we can discuss. So we're going to dive right into this right now. First of all, the trial. Some people have contacted me who often do not get involved when sexual assault's in the news. Like, these aren't people who are in the field of work that I'm in, or in education, or deal with sexual violence. And they're contacting me saying, how did this verdict happen? Like, Mike, do you have any idea how this verdict could have happened, considering what everybody knows to be the evidence? How could this take place? And that's not a common reaction after a case like this, but often when I'm getting those reactions, it's from people who are involved in this line of work, who are just, once again, appalled that this could happen. For us, this is not uncommon to see it could be a mistrial, or it could be not guilty, what appears to be very guilty sometimes in cases. This is not uncommon, and here's why. You only need one jury member. You only need one to not agree with the rest. And considering you're talking about a celebrity trial, imagine that you had one, just one, jury member who, even when they were selected, didn't realize that they had a bias towards that celebrity. And during the trial thought, I just can't believe this person that I thought of for all these years could have done this. There's just no way I can believe that person could have ever have done this. And you just need that person to hold on strong to those beliefs to get a situation where you don't have a verdict. Because in a criminal case, it has to be unanimous. And so when you don't have unanimous, it just takes one. So if you're thinking, how could the whole jury think this way? It might not be that case. This might be one person on the jury. That's all it takes. One person on the jury to have this belief in their mindset that this celebrity was not capable of this behavior. And if they believe that, regardless of all the facts in front of them, regardless of all the evidence in front of them, if they believe that, then that can lead you to a mistrial. Because they are going to stay strong, where maybe all the other jurors believe, hey, the evidence is obvious here. How do we not have a conviction? Now, we don't know in this case what happened, but that's an easy way, unfortunately, for this to take place. And this is another great evidence of why you cannot look at a case and whether somebody's convicted or not convicted as actually determining whether a crime occurred or not. Because sometimes it just takes a juror. So even though the crime occurred, somebody doesn't get convicted. Somebody once gave me a great analogy about this, and that is, can you fight a speeding ticket? Yes. Could they drop the speeding ticket? Yes. Does that mean you didn't speed? No. Doesn't mean that at all. It means you showed up and fought the ticket, and the ticket went away. Juries can be the same way. An argument can go in front of a jury that appears to be one of guilt and conviction. They don't convict. It doesn't mean a crime didn't happen. All right? And by the way, there are cases where convictions occur that are later overturned, because sometimes even a conviction can be wrong. We know that can occur. So be very careful thinking because someone did not get convicted means nothing happened. Especially on this crime, that's not necessarily true at all. So that's the Bill Cosby trial. Now keep in mind that prosecution has said they will retry, which in a mistrial you can do, because a mistrial means that you weren't found innocent, so you're not being convicted, you're not being tried again of the same crime that you were already found innocent of. So they can try this again, which leads us in to this speculation by a representative, supposedly, of Bill Cosby, that Bill Cosby is going to do a speaking tour to educate on sexual assault. let's dive into Bill Cosby doing a tour to educate on sexual assault. If there is going to be another trial, if the DA decides to try this case again, which they can do because it was a mistrial, you have Bill Cosby walking on stages potentially and revealing the strategy of how either not to get charged, not to get caught. These are all possibilities. I'm not saying it's going to happen, which would mean you have all the evidence that a trial could ever want of somebody getting up in front of people and saying how not to get charged or how not to get convicted. Even if he doesn't use that language, if it's implied in the program at any point, it will be evidence. Like I told somebody earlier, this in some weird, sick, demented way, if he does this tour, it could actually worsen his own case that he's trying to fight. So it's a very weird dichotomy you have going on there of the possibility of him doing this. Now, let's talk about the idea that Bill Cosby's going to teach how either not to get charged with sexual assault or not be involved in a sexual assault. We have an old saying in our line of work, and there are people out there, and there have been for a long time, who do programs or do lectures on how not to get charged or how not to get caught with certain criminal behaviors. This isn't anything new. It's just that we have a celebrity doing it right after a case where many people believe the celebrity is guilty. And so this is what's making this news, because how not to get caught on this topic is nothing new in my line of work. We've been hearing about this. So let's discuss that. If you come to me and say, Mike, instead of teaching people how not to sexually assault, why don't you just teach people how not to get caught? The moment you tell me, why don't you teach somebody how not to get caught, you're pretty much saying, hey, let's create a system so people can sexually assault but not get in trouble for it. Or here's how to avoid getting a sexual assault charge. Any of that language. For instance, if I told you somebody was going to do a program on how not to get caught speeding, and you go, oh, I want to go to that program. Well, it pretty much acknowledges you want to speed and not get caught. So if somebody's going to run around the country and say, hey, here's how not to get charged with sexual assault, that means you must somehow believe you're likely somebody who could be charged with a sexual assault. Now, if you're going, no, Mike, it's that I don't want to have a false accusation of sexual assault, which, by the way, one of the smallest, percentage-wise, one of the rarest chances of any crime you're going to be false reported of is sexual violence, sexual assault. It is one of the smallest percentages of false reports of all major felonies. And so just keep that in mind when you hear people make comments like that. Now, coming back to this conversation about the idea of, I just don't want to be falsely reported. That's why I want to go to this program. Look, if you think that you're about to engage in sexual activity with somebody who may falsely report you of sexual assault, why are you engaging in that sexual activity? Here's the way how not to be charged with sexual assault. Treat people with respect. Honor the concept of consent every single time. See, if you choose partners that you feel that you can both trust each other, you can rely on each other, that you will honor each other's boundaries. If you go, well, Mike, what if I don't know them that well? And you have a fear, then get to know them that much better. All right, that's just that much common sense. If you're going, well, hey, I don't want to get charged, then don't engage in behaviors that in any way could lead you to sexual assault. That's the common sense here. So in other words, if you think, well, this person I'm about to engage in sex with, I think they might falsely report me. How can I still have sex with them and not have them false report me? That's the problem. That mindset is boggling that you would choose to still engage with that person at that point. Why wouldn't you just say, I have an inkling that something could go wrong here. I'm not getting near this. That's the choice I'm going to make. That would be common sense. That's the kind of education that we need out there, to say, make sure that you treat every partner with respect. How about this? How about not intentionally bringing drugs or alcohol into a sexual situation to help increase your chances of that behavior occurring? It might be a good idea. In fact, that's just called legal. Being legal means you do not use alcohol or drugs to get somebody not of sound mind to engage in that sexual behavior. All right, that's smart. Saying that I'm not going to use alcohol or drugs, or I'm not going to take advantage of a situation where somebody's already used alcohol or drugs and are no longer of sound mind because of that use. I'm not going to now engage in sexual activity with that person. Now, look, if they want me and they're all over me and I want them, okay, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till the next day when those drugs or that alcohol is out of their system, they're of sound mind, and then I'm going to know they want this sexual activity. That's what common sense would tell you to do. It would never tell you, well, let's see, this is now time to go to step 1, 2, 3, and 4 and how not to be charged with sexual assault. It's a sick mind concept that I'm going to learn how to engage in sexual activity so I can't get charged with the crime of sexual violence. The only way to really learn how to do that truly, most safely, of any way possible in this world is 2 choices. Don't engage in sexual activity in those moments that you think there could be any risk whatsoever. 2, treat yourself and every human being with respect and dignity. Honor the concept of consent. Ask first. And if you're sitting here telling me, but asking will kill the mood, let me get this straight. You're worried about being charged with sexual assault, but it's not worth asking the person what they're comfortable doing or not doing. At the time you're worried they could accuse you of sexual assault. Yeah, that's sarcasm, of course, that I'm using right there. Hopefully it's so obvious of how ridiculous this argument sounds. If you have any inkling that you're not sure what your partner might do before or after sexual intimacy, ask them. Look at them and go, hey, are you comfortable with this? What would you, and by the way, not with this, discuss what this is. Be very specific. What would you love to do tonight? That's a fun question. And if you're going, well, I couldn't ask that question. That would ruin the moment. Hey, the question doesn't ruin the moment. Now, your inability to communicate with the human being you're about to sexually engage with, that's ruining the moment because you don't even know what moment you're about to have or not have. You're guessing or you're being arrogant and assuming what your partner wants. Ask the question and ask it of somebody who's of sound mind and know they have the right to change their mind at any moment. This is how we engage in sexual activity. We don't attend programs on how to not get charged with sexual assault. I mean, it's so stupid. I can't even say it clearly. How not to get charged with sexual assault. It's ridiculous. So when somebody comes up to me and says, and then, by the way, I get these questions around the country. So if you think the Bill Cosby thing is a rare thing, like this, that he's doing this, not rare. I get these questions all the time. Hey, can you tell me how not to get charged? People are literally walking around. And so here's the sad part. If Bill Cosby does that tour, people will show up because there is such a large population that believes that when they engage in sexual behavior, all their actions are perfectly okay. Perfectly okay. And yet their partners, there's a good chance they could falsely accuse them of sexual assault. We have people who believe this. So they're going to go attend this program because they believe everything they're doing is right and they're still going to be falsely reported. And instead of stopping and going, wait, why don't I look in the mirror and go, if everything I'm doing is right and I think I'm being falsely reported, then there's one thing not right that I'm doing, and that's choosing the person that I'm choosing to sexually engage with because they're about to falsely report me. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say that when I'm engaging in sexual behavior, everything I'm doing is right, and I'm worried that I'm going to be falsely reported because there's the and means the person you've chosen here you think is going to falsely report you, which means there's a problem there. You better talk. You better figure out how comfortable they are with you. You better be able to know what they do or don't want. And by the way, in these kind of programs, what happens is people tell you things like, have them sign an agreement, have them sign a document, right? Let's get that straight. That's not legal. Here's why it's not legal. When you sign a piece of paper that's a contract, let's say there was a contract on this piece of paper, and you sign it, it implies you don't have the right to change your mind because you signed a contract. But sex doesn't work that way. You have the right to change your mind at any moment. So if you sign a document and they try to use that against you because you changed your mind, you see the problem here? The legal system says you have the right to say no at any point. Now, by the way, we got some states that have some messed up laws that don't honor that as well as other states. But you should always have the right to change your mind. Don't ever, ever walk into a sexual situation saying, well, I think this is a time where I'm going to use a contract. Just don't engage in the sexual behavior if you have that much fear. I know people that are creating apps, phone apps, saying, hey, sign our phone app. Have your partner, say, yes, I consent. Well, first of all, a drunk person can touch a button that says, yes, I consent, and it doesn't make it okay. It's a ridiculous notion. Number two, imagine that you're about to sexually be active with another person, and they pull out an app and go, will you hit this button proving you won't accuse me of sexual assault? You're worried about asking what this person wants or doesn't want because it's going to ruin the moment, but you're going to ask them to sign a document or a button on a phone so you don't get charged with sexual assault. Are you hearing the ridiculousness of this? I mean, it's just insane. And that's right, Janet, the drugs and alcohol change the situation, which is why the law's written to address that, which says if somebody's not of sound mind, they cannot consent. And that's why contracts signed when drunk or not of sound mind, an app signed when drunk or not of sound mind, doesn't change the fact that this partner was not of sound mind and could not consent. So can anybody think of anything that Bill Cosby is going to say that's actually going to help people have healthier, more respectful, wonderful sexual relationships? Well, how about this? How about the notion that there are survivors out there that are watching what they perceive, and I know that the court systems have not shown this to be true, so I'm not saying it is or isn't, but what they perceive to be a predator traveling the country giving advice on the very crime that they believe this person is committed. And here's the scary part. Crowds showing up. Now you're a survivor, you turn on the TV or you go online news and you hear about crowds showing up for a celebrity who in their mind believes that they didn't do anything wrong, yet you believe every definition of sexual assault says they did do something wrong, and crowds are showing up to support them. Please understand the damage this kind of a tour can do for survivors, what this can do culturally to show that how much further we have to go. And so it's really, really important for everyone out there to think about this. I'm addressing this hopefully one time. Here's why. I don't want to give him any more attention on this topic because it clearly appears he wants it and wants to feed off it then. Which, by the way, that is very much in line with predatorial behavior. They love power. They love power. So I'm not referring specifically to Bill Cosby. I'm referring to predators, keep in mind. They love power. So look, PR opportunity to get attention, to tour the country and show this way. As sick as the whole thing sounds, it falls in line with what a predator seeks. Power, attention brings power. So we have to understand that we shouldn't be surprised that somebody that people believe, I'm not saying that the courts have said that he's guilty, that many people believe, not all obviously, but many people believe is a predator. We shouldn't be shocked that this person could seek opportunities for more fame and attention, because that would be seeking that power trip, that power thrill. Remember, sexual assault's an act of power. Think about it when somebody uses drugs to sexually assault someone, right? It's to take power away from that person, to take their control away so you have control of them, right? And so this actually falls in line. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in. Hey, John, Kevin, thanks for joining us. We're just talking about you should not be surprised if somebody who seeks power, which is a predator, somebody who seeks power is now looking for more fame and attention after a case that, by the way, isn't even done because the DAs are saying they're going to do this case again. They're going to prosecute. Since it was a mistrial, you have the right to do that. So if you hear people saying, well, who would go to a tour like this? Sadly, I meet those individuals who would go intentionally to a tour like this to actually learn how not to be charged with sexual assault. I meet people like this all over the world doing the work I do. Now, I'm thankful that by the end of my trainings, people are typically, those same people were coming around going, man, this was a good perspective. I didn't realize that. I had the wrong mindset. You know, I came into this thinking, just tell me how not to get charged. I walked out going, I need to change my behaviors so I never engage in that behavior in the first place. And that's where we need to go as a culture. that instead of me worrying about being charged with a crime, I change my behaviors on such a level that I don't have to worry about the crime anymore. That I wouldn't even think about that. That I wouldn't pick a partner that in any way that I would feel would put me at risk, because I want to choose a partner that creates a safe, wonderful experience for myself and for them. This should be a mutual experience. And there's a word we haven't talked about today, mutual. If it's a mutually wonderful, amazing, consensual experience, why in the world are you worried about this crime? Unless you don't trust the person you're with, which means it's probably not a mutually amazing, consensual experience. If there's a lack of trust, that means even when they communicate, you might be worried it's not the truth. And how mutually amazing is this if that's going on? Now there's fears creeping in. All these other things are being affected. Make great choices. Make sure that you choose partners that can talk about what they want, don't want. If your partner says, I can't talk about it, then go, okay, you're not ready, you're not comfortable. Well, it won't do anything. We'll wait till you are. By the way, if your partner really wants you and somebody goes, well, you don't know, what if they're really horny? What if they're really horny and they really want you? Then they'll find a way to use their words in a way that they're comfortable using the words. And if they can't find a way to use their words in a way they're comfortable using their words, then that would tell you they're not comfortable with what their words are talking about. And that's important to discuss. If you can't talk about sexual intimacy, that means you're not comfortable talking about sexual intimacy. And that's a problem if you want to engage in sexual intimacy. Don't go learn how not to get charged with a crime. Learn how to talk with your partners about what you like, what you don't like, what they don't like, what you want at this exact second, and what you don't want at this exact second. And honor when they change their mind. Treat them with respect and dignity at all times, so you never will have to even think of the crime when you're with a partner. Now, I want to back up that statement, because as I said it, I could hear a few people going, whoa, time out, Mike. For those who are survivors, that person who committed a crime against them, that trauma and that tragedy could be part of them moving forward, and they could think of the crime even when everything is right. And that's correct. So we need to acknowledge that. We don't want to be coming from a place of privilege as myself, where I'm sitting there going, well, I would never think of the crime. But if I was a survivor, I could very much be thinking of the crime. But a survivor is not sitting there thinking I could be falsely reported. A survivor is sitting there going, I don't ever want to experience that crime again. Right? They're coming from the complete opposite perspective. And that's understandable. I don't want this crime to occur to me. Should be way more in the front of our faces in this society than I don't want to be charged with the crime. And that's not even a conversation we're having enough of, which is, I don't want this crime to occur to me. How do we create a society where this crime doesn't happen to me? That's not even happening in schools, by the way. How do we create a society? Not how do I stop myself from being sexually assaulted? That's all over the place, right? You can find that everywhere. Here's how not to be raped. Here's how. No. How do we create a society where this doesn't happen to me? That's a better question. Way better, way more important than how do I not get charged? Which is completely messed up, coming from the wrong perspective, and almost acknowledging you believe there's a chance you could be, which means there's something going wrong there. And you need to look in the mirror and have that conversation. And none of us are perfect. So if you're thinking, hey, but when I do this, I'm afraid I could be false reported. I don't want you to be watching this video going, well, then I'm doing something wrong, so it's over for me. No, I want you to watch this video, look in the mirror and go, what am I doing wrong that I need to change or shift in my life? And take out the issue of sexual violence. We all should be doing this in all aspects of our life. What could I be doing better? Are there things I'm doing wrong? And when we do that, then we have the opportunity for transformation. I've had points in my life where I realized, hey, Mike, sometimes you project as being arrogant or self-righteous because you're so strong in your opinions on these topics. I've had to have a wake-up call to go, how do I present myself so I don't project that? Doesn't mean I don't ever do it. It means that I need to be aware of that. So if I'm somebody out there going, I think I could be falsely accused, then you might want to look in the mirror and go, what about my sexual decision-making makes me think that that situation could occur, that I could change so that I would never have that fear? So sincerely trying to help those who have that fear of looking in the mirror and going, what is it? Get to the exact thing that it is, and then make sure you're addressing that. So if it's like, well, I don't trust my partners, okay, then don't engage in sexual activity until you do. There's a good solution as an example. So this started out talking about the Bill Cosby trial. For those of you who didn't see, I explained why I'm not shocked it was a mistrial. You only need one. That it's a subconscious belief that the character they know of Bill Cosby could not do this, whether the real person could or not. They know the character throughout their life, and it only takes one for a mistrial. That's it, one. So I'm not shocked. People in my line of work see heinous crimes not get conviction. That's not, sadly, I hate to say it, but it's not uncommon for us to see that in our line of work. We hear about the case and then see there's no conviction. It's not uncommon. Now, with a celebrity, the whole world's discussing it, but we hear about this on a regular basis in our line of work. So keep that in mind. 2, so that's the Bill Cosby case. 2, summarizing up here, the idea that anybody would go to anybody speaking on how not to get charged is beyond ridiculous when you should be going on how to engage in sexual behavior. This would be the training to go. How to engage in sexual behavior in such a way that I'm going to have mutually amazing, wonderful experience. My partner and myself, or all partners, if there's more than 2 people, are going to have mutually amazing consensual experience. Go to that program so that you wouldn't have anything to worry about in the first place. Then you're going to choose the right people and the right situations for yourself and your partner. That's the key. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. If you're watching this later, continue to leave comments. We'll keep an eye on them, and we'll try to respond as the day goes on. Have an awesome day. Remember, you can always find us at datesafeproject.org, datesafeproject.org. My name is Mike Domitrz. I'm the founder and president of the Date Safe Project. I have an amazing team. It's not just me, and it's not my team. It's us that allow all this work to be done. Lisa, Rita, Karen, and I can go on and on, doing amazing work behind the scenes. Thank you. Have an awesome weekend.